make a prayer, sit and be quiet with it, and then see what you hear.
That's beautiful. How do others, non-Native Americans, how do they reach out to find you, to receive the beautiful service that you provide and the blessings?
People, I do have my, I'll just back up for 1 second and talk about Matamota for a minute. I've been working also in Indian country, running a nonprofit, doing a lot of work for a long time. I'm a tribal member, Caddo Nation of Oklahoma. And of course, in Indian country, if people think you smoke weed, you are not ever going to get a contract with a tribe ever. So I had to hide that, like many people do, excuse me, in their workplace. And so I created initially as a way for me to have a Facebook page where I could teach the history and the beauty of this plant without having the repercussions of backlash, if you will. So that's kind of how Matamota came to be. And now I forgot what you asked me.
Well, that's okay. We're about up to our first break.
Okay.
And we have the beautiful cannabis nurse, Heather. This is good news. And we have the amazing Cristela Allen, also known as Matamota, who we will be back with in just a few moments after we hear a word from our sponsors.
Good News with Nurse Heather will return, but first, let's show some love to our sponsors.
Dr. Dabber, hurry! Its temperature is shooting past 1,000 degrees Fahrenheit. It's burning up.
I'm afraid for this little guy, it's just too late.
What caused the problem?
Only Dr. Dabber can maintain the perfect temperature for a smooth-tasting, slower burn. This standard vaporizer lost all of its health benefits, sending it up in smoke.
So you're telling me that most vapor pens burn so hot they produce smoke, not vapor?
Correct. Keep away from those standard vaporizer pens and turn to Dr. Dabber. Doctor's orders.
Less heat, more flavor.
Ganjapreneur.com, your guide to the cannabis business world. Ganjapreneur.com is a comprehensive resource for cannabis professionals and entrepreneurs. Download the Ganjapreneur app on your smartphone or tablet to catch up on cannabis industry news, scroll through our daily job listings, and learn about successful cannabis companies, executives, and investors. Ganjapreneur.com, helping Ganjapreneurs grow.
InternetMarketingNinjas.com is the online dojo of the highly trained and skilled Internet Marketing Ninjas. Disavow documents, reconsideration requests, panda and penguin penalties. Let our superior SEO ninjas confront all of your link-related issues. The Internet Marketing Ninjas are equipped to master any marketing exercise, content creation, authorship, link building, PPC, and more. Plus, build more buzz for your brand with our social media marketing strategy. Discover all that the Internet Marketing Ninjas can do for you. Visit the online dojo now at InternetMarketingNinjas.com.
Nurse Heather is back to spread some more good news, only on CannabisRadio.com.
We're back, beautiful listeners, with good news with Cannabis Nurse Heather and our beautiful guest today, Cristela Allen, who is a cannabis Cunandera. And she is also known as Matamota. Just before the break, she was beginning to tell our beautiful listeners about Matamota. I'll turn it over to her first to finish that story.
Well, what I was saying was, how Matamota kind of came to be. And, it is a little bit of a silly name that makes people laugh, which is one thing I was kind of going for. I've had some criticism from people saying, we're trying to lean towards science, and not really. First of all, I wanted to have fun with it. I've been working in very serious poverty-stricken communities for a long time. That can get a little depressing sometimes. And I think that healing, when you're healing, especially from serious illnesses such as cancer and Crohn's and epilepsy, that it can be a little depressing sometimes. So I think laughter is good medicine. People almost always laugh when they hear Matamota. That's a reaction I like to see from them, because we just need a little bit more of that. And so I really practice integrated medicine. I believe in some conventional medicine, and I believe in traditional medicine, which we have really different definitions for that in Indian country. Conventional medicine is more of the Western modalities, and traditional medicine is the older modalities. So we call the older medicine traditional and the newer medicine conventional.
Absolutely. Thank you for clarifying that. And, Crystal, I also wanted to thank you you were speaking of sitting on a hilltop with your joint and smoking it and listening to the medicine. And you had actually given me what is it called? Is it a spirit stick? Or you gave me some kind of a ceremonial piece that I've used, and it is true that when you sit quietly, and you told me this is not for sharing with friends, this is for you when you need to be at one with the medicine. And so I wanted to thank you for giving me that gift and that awareness to sit and listen to the medicine.
Oh, well, thank you so much. I created those, I call them ritual roaches, and they're usually something I make for my clients. So I feel like what I do is a blend between native values regarding traditional medicine and then some of the older ways in the Mediterranean, because my grandma used to doctor people with cannabis. This medicine in Sicily, at least, has been used to treat people for anger and sadness. It's an anger and sadness medicine, which I'm sure makes sense to a lot of people that are hearing that, because it doctors those two things so well. And actually, in Mediterranean way, also consider this plant to be feminine, mostly because it has a softening quality. Not that it makes everyone feminine, but that it has a woman-like softening quality to it, a comforting quality to it. So, I like to make those because I think that people we like our rituals. That's in our DNA, regardless of where you're from in this universe. Regardless of where you're from, your family, your relatives all had their old rituals. And so I think reconnecting with those old ways and having some ceremonial tools, actually a box of ceremonial tools that you just use to pray with sometimes. You don't have to call it prayer. You can call it whatever you want. Meditation, just sit and be quiet sometimes with it. And I really think that's how Bob Marley wrote a lot of his songs, I mean, he didn't write all those songs all by himself. He had the medicine enhancing his sensitivity and his consciousness and his awareness. I feel like they wrote those songs together.
Yes. And you've also said that Bob Marley's songs are prayers, and that these prayers, every time his song is played all over the world, that these prayers are being released and given up. And he really has made an impact in our world with this spirit of the medicine being his assistant. You, my dear, have assisted many, and you bring goodness to the world in so many ways, including your efforts regarding the Native workplace. You were talking a little bit about this before the break, but what is Native Workplace, and what does this company do to assist tribes and tribal members?
Well, I created Native Workplace about 15 years ago, when there just was no place online for Native people to look for work in our own community. And as more Native papers came online and had their classifieds up, we shifted from that to Green Jobs. When Green Jobs first came out, no one knew what it was either. They knew it was Green Jobs, but what does that mean? So we launched an effort to educate our community on the variety of green jobs that were available, not just wind and solar, but we've done a lot of work in energy auditing training, rain catchment system installations and certifications, all these kind of sustainable living things that can translate into work. But we also tied it to our traditional values, just to give the work more importance to people, so that if you are a sun dancer, you can work with the sun in solar, or if you pour water for ceremony, you can work with water to keep our water clean. So I'm always trying to make that traditional connection. It's also, now here we are again with cannabis and the Cole memo that came out that have the 8 guidelines that tribes can follow and grow cannabis, but it's still a slippery slope. And our community needs education, not just on what kind of business we can engage in, but just the plant and the medicine. A lot of Native people are still very much against cannabis. And so that's a little bit of an uphill road. It's not viewed as, quote unquote, our medicine. It's viewed as a medicine from someplace else. And it's also been lumped in our community, in our wellness situations. You know, when people are sick and their spirit is sick, they're going to take anything they can get their hands on, really. So in the mind of the community, cannabis is lumped in with everything else, alcohol, meth, cocaine, and we have a lot of education that has to happen in our community to change that tide.
And there's just a lot of tension, isn't there, between initially the federal government finally saying that they're going to allow the Native American tribes to be involved, and then on the other hand, a lot of uncertainty and confusion about it, so that now it's more of a promise than the reality. The reality is that we're still having to fight with the federal authorities and sometimes even the state authorities to allow the Native Americans to have this beautiful plant.
Yes, it's true. And, you know, when that memo first came out, the red flag to me was the Department of Justice was saying tribes can do this as long as they remain compliant. Well, what does that mean? That is a very big word, compliance, as we're just seeing in the mainstream cannabis industry with the wide range of issues we're having with pesticides and production and, you know, having a standardized compliance. So one raid that took place, you know, happened for a variety of reasons. They didn't have a BIA-recognized tribal council. They didn't have an ordinance. 40 greenhouses with no patient manifest. I mean, you know, we do still have to be smart about what we're doing and try and be compliant at least. Federal Indian law is a very complicated area of law. Very complicated.
Fortunately, we'll all be together, as Nurse Heather will mention, next little bit later in October, when we'll be all together at a conference to address some of these issues. Because the good news is that there's a brighter day ahead, and with education about the subject, hopefully then we'll be able to allow the Native tribes and around the country to be able to do this.
Absolutely. Kenny, you know, I love talking about the native lands and growing cannabis and hemp. That's something that I absolutely love. But we've also got to go show a little love to our sponsors. You want to take us to the break?
Absolutely. We are having a great time with our beautiful guest today, Cristala Allen. This is Good News with Cannabis Nurse Heather. I'm Canna Kenny, and we're going to say hello to some sponsors and be right back with our final segment.
Good News with Nurse Heather will return, but first, let's show some love to our sponsors.
Your connection to quality cannabis insurance services is spelled Kaercher. That's Karcher Insurance. We have worked with ventures like cannabis for over 60 years. We're proud to represent over 50 companies with tailor-made cannabis plans for owners just like you to insure your product, your plants, and your pursuits. Kaercher spells out their full-service insurance services ranging from commercial to bonds, to personal, from life to health, and more. Contact the team at KarcherInsurance.com and let our experience work for you. That's Kaercher Insurance.com.
Contact Karen and the team at Karcher Insurance at 1-844-421-3560. That's 844-421-3560.
MJWellness.com, the largest medical marijuana community in the world. Connect with thousands of patients, doctors, industry leaders, and businesses through shared personal experiences along our worldwide network. Discover new therapies and benefits with content tailored to you. Come grow your network on mjwellness.com. You're not alone. Your wellness matters. Learn, live, and thrive. Check out mjwellness.com today.
Great websites today need expert web design and development and need to be e-commerce ready and mobile friendly. But building a